Do you ever have that moment where you sit down with someone who's finally willing to give gaming a chance? It's a pretty great sensation, as if you're anything like me, a million potential levels, mechanics, characters, and games all spring to mind. I really want any newcomer to experience everything from having their first online deathmatch to losing all their rings in Sonic. As is the case with gaming no longer being something resigned to mom's basement, roundly upon by the mainstream despite having so much to offer, gaming is now accepted as just another hobby or pastime. It might seem obvious to younger viewers now, but there was totally a time where you just didn't admit you played video games in larger social situations, and it sucked. Anyway, with all this stuff in mind, more and more people are becoming gamers, or regular players of games in amongst everything else they do. But which titles would you give to someone looking to get into the medium? Keep in mind though that we're not necessarily talking about the latest graphical powerhouses or just the latest releases. We need games that demonstrate their mechanics and genres in accessible ways, the ones that made you love video games in the first place, as well as showing just what the medium can do in every respect. I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 essential titles every new gamer must play. Number 10, Fable 2. Okay, so the logical go-to for a My First RPG might be the almighty Skyrim, but it's Fable's mix of humor and fairy tale sensibilities that appeal to newcomers wanting to ease themselves into the genre. Plus, imagine discovering Skyrim after Fable like millions of us did. Exactly. Featuring all the lovable aspects of being a hero in the world of Albion, the townsfolk will remark on your actions, and if you take paths of good or evil to their logical extremes, in a fun Prince Charming cockstrut or mwahahaing sort of way, you'll be able to see the reactions of the world change around you as your appearance modulates too. That's not to mention the incredibly fun combat system that maps sword swings, magic, and ranged weapons to different face buttons, allowing you to take on everything from wayward bandits to much larger stone giants with ease. Whether you use your skills for good or just get to battering chickens and swearing at pensioners, Fable is very tongue-in-cheek, and once it all clicks, you'll be living in Albion for days. Just stay the hell away from Fable 3, okay? Number 9, Gone Home. Many walking simulators, or whatever you want to call them, have sprung forth from Gone Home. And while I'd also recommend Firewatch or Everybody's Gone to the Rapture for some more, dare I say it, pretentiously enjoyable fodder, Gone Home is where everything began back in 2013. Putting you in control of Caitlin Greenbrier, she returns to her family home to discover a note from his sister, apologizing profusely for some unknown event and asking Caitlin to not go digging. The rest of the house is completely empty, or is it? And things unravel from there. Taking the idea of first-person exploration as a game mechanic and stripping down the experience to just walking around the house without any weapons in sight, you'll intricately piece together the events that transpired before your arrival. It's truly a masterpiece of narrative and game design, in the way that you unwittingly end up exploring the house in the exact way the creators designed, despite nothing pulling you in any particular direction. As with all great stories, come the final reveal, you'll either be thoroughly satisfied or begging for more, potentially both. And the more you think about how the material is handled, plus the way you've approached everything, Gone Home quickly becomes one for gaming's history books. Number 8, Gears of War 2. You can recommend one third-person shooter for a newcomer to gaming. What do you pick? I'm going with Gears 2, but let me know down in the comments. Should it be something more like The Division because of its stripped-down mechanics? Anyway, yes, this is a middle installment, but Gears' lore already takes place as the war between the humans and the Locust is raging anyway. Playing once again as Marcus Phoenix, Gears of War 2 remains the most replayable in the series in terms of a campaign that provides the best value, with enough character moments to carry you into the first or final part of the original trilogy if you want more. At this stage, Gears' influence on third-person gaming is legend. We just wouldn't have modern-day cover systems without it, and with this first sequel, Epic pioneered a horde mode, plus a host of cool mechanics like dueling chainsaw showdowns and fatalities on downed enemies. There was a time when Gears of War was on the top of the world, and it's because of games just like this. Number 7, Resident Evil 2 Remake. Next up, we want something that ticks the boxes of horror, but not in an obtuse way. For my money, the Resident Evil 2 remake is just that right mix of old-school puzzle-based progression, an incredibly atmospheric location, brilliantly memorable enemies, and a solid control scheme. I'm gonna sidestep things like Outlast and Soma for now. Get some liquors under your belt and take down Mr. X, and then you can move forward with fighting the very idea of reality itself. And if that last sentence doesn't make a whole lot of sense, go play Soma. Back to the Resident Evil 2 remake though, and Capcom found the perfect balance between old and new in terms of Resident Evil's identity over the years. I've mentioned the fact that puzzles gate progression, but the newer RE engine feeds into a level of gore, dismemberment, and tactical limb shooting that roots you in the moment. You really do feel like you're playing as these characters fighting to survive, and that's the core of horror gaming. Number 6, Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered. As much as I adore Halo's original trilogy, and I really do, nothing made anywhere near as much impact as Call of Duty continues to, and that started back in 2007 with Modern Warfare. Even just for the Hollywood aping campaign, this fourth numbered installment had a level of production quality and style that put you square amongst the action with some of the tightest controls in gaming history. Thankfully, Activision have now put out a pretty hefty remaster, overhauling the visuals to make iconic levels like the opening tanker heist or the intense sniper crawl of All Gillied Up even more appealing to original fans and newcomers alike. Once you've seen everything this set of missions has to offer, you can attempt playing online. Diving in fresh today means you'll encounter one of the most ferocious online communities there is, but nothing beats harnessing that difficulty curve and mastering it. Call of Duty multiplayer is ruthless, but there's nothing else like it. Number 5, Injustice 2. A pretty perfect balance of immediate appeal and depth of control and animation over time. I'm throwing Injustice 2 up as not only NetherRealm's best fighting game so far, but one of the best of them all. Where Mortal Kombat's levels of gore might be off-putting and the latest Tekken felt a little bit too much like more of the same, Injustice matches up millions of people's favorite heroes with a solid combat system, throwing in environmental destruction and some spectacularly enjoyable one-shot special moves to give everything a great visual identity. Injustice 2 also introduced one of the only loot systems in gaming that was genuinely rewarding pretty much the whole way through. Comprising separate parts of costumes and accessories for DC's main roster, it bolsters an exemplary story mode that honestly anyone in favor of a recommendable narrative should seek out anyway. Seeing Batman's no-kill rule pushed to breaking point as a tyrannical alternate version of Superman tries to enforce safety through regulation, it's low-key one of the best superhero stories of the decade, and that's saying a lot. If any part of you is already a fan of superhero movies or comics, this is a no-brainer. Number 4, Grand Theft Auto 5. The ultimate free roam game that lets you do whatever escapist fantasies spring to mind, GTA 5 delivers on every debaucherous thought, supplying you with characters that don't feel too out of place doing whatever terrible deeds you can think of. More often than not, they'll just join in with a quip or one-liner that ends up making the game worth its price tag right there and then. Being the highest selling entertainment property of all time, you'd have to dive into the quantum realm and emerge in another dimension to find someone who hasn't heard of GTA. Yet, for that exact same reason, it just has to be included as something you play first. Featuring a world more detailed than around 10 of your average other games combined, you could spend an afternoon perfecting exactly how to get a car up the side of Mount Chiliad and never get tired. From stealing a sports car and throwing it off a construction ramp to taking part in heists while spraying rounds in all directions as you evade the cops, GTA is the darkest escapist fantasies of humanity made playable, and it's not available anywhere else. Number 3, The Witness. Another supremely tricky one to pick out. We're not necessarily going genre by genre here, but trying to pick a puzzle game that satisfies the head-scratching crowd is tough when it comes to gaming. Honestly, there are tons of phenomenally brain-breaking puzzle games out there, and from Portal to Braid, Baba Is You to Monument Valley, once you realize the genre is for you, they're all worth playing. Let's go with The Witness for now, as the most mind-blowing thing about Jonathan Blow's second masterwork is it deals with the conveyance of information and how we even develop language. Is language words, or is a word just a set of shapes in a set order that you interpret? It's by picking this apart through the setup of exploring an existentialist island in the middle of nowhere that results in you completing line-based puzzles as the rules underneath keep changing. The sort of gameplay that's hard to describe but intrinsically human to experience, The Witness continues to be a remarkable achievement in game design and as a pure cerebral challenge. Number 2, Super Mario Odyssey. You can totally make the case that newcomers to gaming should delve into the archives and play something like the original Super Mario Bros. Or Super Mario 64, but as many earlier films just aren't as approachable as their modern-day counterparts, here it's better to sample Mario's latest as an immaculate example of 3D platforming. For the most part, this is 3D Mario as many of us already know and love, but a new mechanic lets you embody a series of NPCs and objects, expanding Mario's moveset to include everything from Goomba and Chain Chomp attacks to a moving ball of electricity darting across a city, or just weaponizing a T-Rex. From perfectly designed worlds that make you want to collect every last star just so you can hear this jingle again, to the cute characters and buckets of charm and polish that Nintendo always pour over their most beloved creations, Odyssey marked not only a high point for the franchise, but for gaming in general. Number 1, The Last of Us. Gaming's magnum opus in terms of storytelling and setting a bar for portrayals of emotion in code. The Last of Us deserved every single Game of the Year award back in 2013. Playing as character Joel taking care of the hugely important Ellie in a post-apocalyptic world ravaged by the cordyceps virus, Naughty Dog's revolutionary survival horror is just as much about death, decay, and loss as it is about fostering new connections, realizing family doesn't have to mean a blood relation, and seeing there's a tranquil beauty amongst the darkness. Yes, the game part of The Last of Us isn't held up anywhere near its narrative emotional climaxes, but it's the way creative directors Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley weave Joel and Ellie's story into some incredibly intense gunfights and melee exchanges that keeps everything moving nicely. The Last of Us represents the perfect mix of two ideologies gaming had been struggling with across the 2000s. We finally got a story filled with genuinely brilliant actors and fully motion-captured cinematics, yet all that character work relies entirely on immersion over time. Joel and Ellie's relationship had to build in semi-real time from the ground up, and getting anyone to experience that often results in an eye-opening realization of just what gaming can offer, as well as just how far the medium has come. And that is my list. No doubt there'll be a whole bunch of suggestions, so shout them out down in the comments below. I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com. Please check out the WhatCulture Gaming Podcast, and I'll catch you soon.